All right, I'm feeling better. So I heard this guy, he's talking about Islam, right? The Christians invented Islam. They really did. The Christians invented Islam. Well, they didn't invent it. They invented Christianity. And then, right before the Roman Empire fell, about a little bit before that, they were like, we need to get more people in the mix, because that's what Christianity is. So they went and they taught them about this Christianity they made up, and the Muslims said, we're just gonna make our own shit. That's what happened. That's how Islam was created. There's even now, you can't trust documentation of the Catholic Church, but there's documentation from like cardinals. They're like, everything that Muhammad says, we went and we taught him. It's documented. It backfired, I don't know. That's why all the prophets are from Judaism. So that makes me Khalifa. I'm the Khalifa. I should be in charge of Iran. But the Iranians, like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. This stuff's important. Like, people say, like, especially in American places of power, Congress, Senate, they'll be like the Democrats will talk about how we just go and we bomb colored nation. Well, the Persians are white. Persians were taken over by Alexander the Great. Persians are white. They're all Greek. See, here's an interesting factor. You guys, fuck it, man. I'll just tell you guys everything, and then you can just whatever it is. So, Alexander the Great, right, goes in. He conquers everything. He gets right to India, and that's where he gets killed. The reason Alexander the Great gets killed at the border of India is the Greeks don't go in and taint the whatever, the Indian, whatever, bloodline, Hindu. I don't know if you want to call them by their religion, the Indians, right? And the reason is because the Assyrians come in, and when they wipe out the 10 tribes, they take them back, and where most of them end up going, they go into India. The lost 10 tribes are in India. But I mean, there's some other ways that we can look at the lost 10 tribes. They're in India. That's where the Assyrians took them. That's how you know Jesus isn't real, because there's no Jews. They're in India. They took them in assembly, and they ended up going to India. How do I know that? I don't know. Somebody told me. Somebody said, look at this. That's how it usually works. That's why I get mad about some stuff. But that's how it usually works. And somebody, look at this. Look at this over here. And I look at it, and like, it might be 3 years later. Look at this. I'm like, oh, that's what you were talking about. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes. I got told to go join the Catholic Church. Yeah, you need to go talk to Coach White. Not at first, but go talk to. These are who you need to go talk to. That's how it always is. I'm like, oh, finally. And then they look over, they don't answer you, or it pisses them off. And then I was told, no, what you need to do, you need to go join the Catholic Church. Okay. Join the Catholic Church. And then, I don't even know, 4 years after that, Jesus isn't real. What? He's not. Like you somebody to join the Catholic Church? You know the answer? I don't know. Not very smart. Something to do with David and the crown's idol or something like that. I don't even know. I haven't got that far in the research. I don't know Levitical law. I think it's really Levitical law. It kind of is. Yeah. Nobody will talk to me, so like I would ask you to live it. That's not really my thing. It has something to do with that. It has something to do with somebody joining. See, that's the other. I don't know why I'm making these videos. That's the other reason. Like when all these things pop up, they're like, "You're gonna get fired. You're getting taken out, and this is what's gonna." There's some stuff that just has to be done, and that unless you specifically do that thing, the other parts can't happen. That's one of them. Well, I just told you now. You guys can probably figure it out. But because somebody has to join the Catholic Church, renounce it, and then once it's renounced, right, and that person's like pretty much pure Hebrew, then the tenets of Christianity, the things that are used in Christianity can get taken into Judaism. Something like that. It's some complicated. I don't know. I'm not very smart, but it has something to do with David and the idols crown. You guys should probably go look it up. I haven't, so I don't really know the story. Right? I just walk around going, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. I just talk about numbers and stuff, and people are like, I have no idea. Or something like that. Right? But I don't know the actual, because I haven't talked to a rabbi. I don't think they probably know either. Maybe, I don't know. It's just like in the book of Ruth, right? So Ruth is a Moabite, right? But she gets married to Nahon or whatever, and they have 2 daughters. Or do they have 2 sons? They have 2 sons, I think. Yeah, they have 2 sons. And their 2 sons marry these 2 women. So they become their daughter-in-laws, and they become the bloodline of Nahon, right? And then he dies. And then Ruth and Oprah go to Bethlehem Ephrath and meet Boaz, right? Who is David's great-grandfather. So he's the original bloodline of the Davidic bloodline, right? Well, Ruth marries him, and when she marries him, under Levitical law, she becomes the bloodline, the Davidic bloodline. And that's why everybody's like, but she's his grandmother, she's David's Canaanite too, whatever. So the question that I have is, when they get married, everything of Nahon comes under the house of David, or under the house of Boaz. So that means the 2 daughter-in-laws that stayed in Moab become the bloodline of the Davidic bloodline as well, right? I don't actually know how that would actually work out, but so when you go into the prophecy, it doesn't mean that. There's a couple of different things it can mean. But when it says the stump of the root of Jesse, the stump of the root of Jesse would be Ruth. It could be Ruth. But the stump of the root of Jesse would be Ruth, because she's Moabite, right? And that would be the stump, because she becomes part of the family Boaz, the Davidic bloodline. But maybe that can mean the 2 daughter-in-laws, if they come under the Davidic bloodline as well, and they have children, even though they're not Hebrew, they're still the Davidic bloodline, right? In some way. So they would be, but I don't think it means that. But it could. I don't know, anybody want to have a debate on it? I don't really sure. Right? And see, and I thought that this is one of my old thoughts, because it's Bethlehem Ephrath, And that's where Ruth goes to, Bethlehem Ephrath. Right? But it doesn't mean that. It has to do with Rachel. It has to do with Jacob. It has to do with Jacob. I'm not going to get into all that because I'm not very smart about that stuff either. I don't know. I haven't really read it. I don't carry around a Bible. But it actually has to do with Jacob. Because Jacob buries Rachel outside of Bethlehem Ephrath. And that fits into Ben Joseph and, Ephraim. That's where it comes from. Right? Jesus' family messed it up. Right? Or they didn't mess it up. Like, the prophet, the angel Gabriel messed it up. He didn't have GPS or something. In the book of Luke, he tells them to go to the wrong Bethlehem. It's what happened. It's what happens. Right? Because he's like, you need to go to Bethlehem, up, and then down to Judea. And because Gabriel didn't have a map, and I feel bad for Joseph and Mary, because they probably went all the way up to, because there's two Bethlehems, they went up to the other one, and they got up there and like, everybody's like, this isn't Judea. They're like, what? We had no idea. We've been living here our whole lives. We didn't know there was two Bethlehems. They didn't know either. And then they had to go down to Judea. Right? Because they probably didn't have maps back then. And Gabriel made that mistake. He told them the wrong Bethlehem. Because it's Bethlehem Ephrath. It's not even it's Bethlehem Ephrath. It's the prophecy, is what it says. I don't know if it says born of a virgin in that prophecy or not. Well, it's a terrible mistake. That's why is Gabriel still the voice of God? Like, because that's the claim. Like, that's why everybody's like, Gabriel's the voice of God. Gabriel speaks for God, right? I mean, that's in some tenets of Christianity. Gabriel speaks for God, right? Well, if Gabriel speaks for God, then what's the Holy Spirit? Why is the Holy Spirit telling you what God's saying? What's Gabriel doing? That's probably why I went and started. See, I'm tying this all together. This is why Gabriel goes to Muhammad and says, hey, do this. Because he was bored. Because he got fired. Because the Holy Spirit's now the voice of God. Gabriel didn't have anything to do. He'd been sitting around for like 700 years. He's like, God wasn't paying attention. He said, hey, I'm going to go over here and talk to this Muhammad guy. That's how Islam got started. It all goes back to the Holy Spirit taking Gabriel's job. Right? But I don't understand that, because then when Jesus is walking on the Jordan, right, and John goes, there's a man whose shoes right, and he baptizes him. And then the sky opens up and a voice goes, this is my son with whom I'm well pleased. Well, it must have been the Holy Spirit, because Gabriel is not the voice of God, and the direct quote is, this is my son with whom I'm well pleased. And Jesus is conceived by the Holy Spirit. So the it all makes sense. So the Holy Spirit would be Jesus' actual father. So is the Holy Spirit God? Like, maybe God got fired too, and the Holy Spirit's running the whole thing. We need to get to the bottom of this Holy Spirit stuff. I don't know. Because that's what the voice said. And God never speaks. I mean, here's why, and this goes back to Genesis. God speaks everything into creation. So God's actually, that car just went down the street, God spoke that into existence. Right? But the creation's already been spoke. He did it in 7 days or whatever. Creation's already been spoke. Now, it says, I created this, I created this, I created this, but I created all existence, right, in this moment. So he's already talked. So he probably, I don't know, this guy can do whatever he wants, but he probably, doesn't speak because he's he doesn't want to mess things up, because you need to go to Bethlehem, like something crazy, because he speaks everything he speaks in creation, and you'd probably just instantly end up there because it's God, right? If God spoke it, like to you, if like God came down and was like, Josh goes, you need to go to 7-Eleven. You probably instantly end up at 7-Eleven because he just spoke you into 7-Eleven, something like that. I don't know the intricacies of God, but there's a bunch of questions right here that I would ask, like the masters of Christianity, or like just spirituality, just in general, like things that I've thought about. I haven't thought about it. And here's another. Okay, now we want let's get into some archangel stuff. So Uriel, and a lot of stuff's under Christianity. It might be in the Talmud or whatever, but Uriel is the angel of prophecy, right? So let's just stick with the Catholics. What the Catholics say is Uriel, whenever somebody's speaking prophetically or gets a prophetic message, it's from Uriel. Uriel's, right? Well, wouldn't the prophetic message come from God? So, if the prophetic message comes from God and Uriel's speaking it, what's Gabriel doing? Because Gabriel's the voice of God, so Gabriel would be speaking for God, but Uriel's giving the prophetic message. And if Uriel gives the prophetic message, why was Gabriel announcing for the Holy Spirit? Okay, this is a better question. Like, scratch that other question. Here's a question. Right? So, God, right? He comes down to when he goes to Moses. He personally goes to Moses. He shows up, right? For a bunch of times. Personally, he shows up, talks to Moses, hangs out with him, makes him take off his shoes, right? Joshua was even there. He actually, all the Israelites, they were in the desert. They heard God. They heard him as well. But he personally came and got him out. He said, "I'm down here." He didn't send an angel. He didn't send anybody. He personally got involved in that mission, right? Okay. That was just letting some people, because he's taking ownership of it. You mean to tell me God sends down his only son? He's like, I'm going to send down my only son to fix this whole world and create, and he doesn't personally go and talk to Mary. He sends Gabriel. You're sending your son into this world, and you didn't personally. There's not one time he ever goes and talks to Mary. You didn't personally go talk to her. Sent Gabriel. I see that doesn't make any sense. It's probably a misprint, right? Because you think if God he personally went to Moses. I'm going to bring my son into this world. And he doesn't go in. First time I saw it, unless it was like AI guy or like some trick. The first time, God personally came. He didn't say anything. He didn't say anything to me. But it was God. I know it was God. Right? And I'm just like a guy sitting here on a street corner. I mean, you think that the birth of your son would be more important than some guys that just sitting there in prison and you just say that. Didn't say anything. Didn't say anything. He killed me. Resurrected me. And then closed my mouth so I couldn't talk. And then told me, go talk to the Christians. So, he didn't actually say anything. An angel didn't say anything. Didn't say any of that stuff. Didn't really say anything. Just like, I know what happened in the dreams. But yeah, he personally came. It was God. See, because I was forever changed. I was like, oh, My whole life changed like the next day. Because I was in prison. I was heathen, man. Yeah. Hanging out, drinking coffee. I'm on my way to federal prison. I'm just like, I'm going to do 4 years. I'm going to have so much street cred. That's what I was thinking. Hanging out with this guy, doing whatever. The guy came into me in a dream. I woke up. I was like, wow. That's how powerful it was. And I didn't know what to do. I quit talking to that guy. That guy thought I was nuts. I said, I can't talk to you anymore. He's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I can't talk to you. I can't hang out with you. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't talk. He's like, what's wrong with you? That's how powerful it was. But I'm sure God can turn that stuff on. You've probably seen God. I've seen God. I've seen Jesus, but I don't remember. But yeah, why didn't you personally go to Mary? I don't understand that. I don't understand. Right? See, here's another theory I used to have. See, I've dismissed a bunch of stuff that's in the New Testament, and I'll tell you how. Here's one here's exactly how I did it. Right? Because they'll debate. The Catholics will debate like, Joseph is the greatest example of obedience to God. Because he never speaks, he never says anything, and he takes ownership of Jesus Christ's child, even though, right? That's why you never heard Joseph speak. And my thing was, no, you never heard Joseph speak because he was probably dead when Jesus started his ministry. That's probably why Jesus started his ministry. Because all the attacks started happening to me when my mom died. Right? And I thought that's the same thing that happened with Jesus. See, it's Sunday, man. I'm getting in the Word and in the Spirit. I got some time. We'll just talk about it. Send a donation. Right? 10% to Melchizedek. I'll take $1. I'll take 50 cents. I don't know. That questions of Jesus. We want to go through them? It's Sunday, right? Sunday. He is the vine, we are the branches. Right? Jesus is the vine, and we're the branches, or whatever. Well, the prophecy says he sent the branch, singular, not the branches. He does not. Who's the vine? Dionysus, the wine god's called the vine, and he's the lamb too. And he got resurrected, I think. But that can't be it. See, these are just questions that I would have for like people who went. There's people who they probably know. They went to Roman Catholic college for like 6 years. They've known this. I don't know. Jesus Christ. Why are there 2 donkeys in all the pictures when Jesus is riding it? That's another question. When I got to the bottom of this is something I got to the bottom of. Because the donkey scenario of Jesus riding into Jerusalem, I don't think it's in all 4 Gospels. I think it's just in 3. And all 3 of them are different. Right? One of them, Jesus said, and this is probably, I don't know if it's Luke or Mark, but he says, here, go down the street and there's somebody, a man or whatever, and he has a donkey and a colt. Tell him the master needs him and bring them to me. Right? And he brings them both of them. Because like you see some pictures, Jesus is riding in and there's always 2. There's 2. I was always like, when I was a kid, I was like, why is there 2? And then I came to the conclusion there's 2 because there's 2 kings. That's when I was being told that I'm the twin brother of Jesus. I was like, oh, that must be why the other one. That's my donkey. And Jesus is riding in on this one. Right? And then I was reading the blessing of Jacob to Judah. And I was like, well, maybe they mistakenly took the blessing of Jacob to Judah because it would be 2 in that one. But the prophecy of Zechariah, I think it's in somewhere, the prophecy says, go get me the colt, the foal of the donkey, one. Just get me the child donkey. Right? Just one. I was like, yeah, well, how did they make the mistake that there's two? And then, like, I was taking this Hebrew class for like 2 days. I don't really know it. But the first thing that they teach you in Hebrew is that in English, like, or in Hebrew, one word is like 4 words in English, right? That's why the translation's difficult, because Hebrew, one word is like 4 words in English. Koine Greek is what the Septuagint's written in, is Koine Greek. And I was like, oh, that must be it. When they were sitting there making up the New Testament and copying it, they miscopied it. They mistranslated it, and they thought it said 2 because one word in Hebrew is 4 in Koine Greek, and they're like, oh, it must be 2. I don't know. That's another question I would have for sure. Like Bishop Barron or something. He could probably answer that. Why? Is it a mistranslation? Why would they mistranslate it? Because how would it get mistranslated? Wasn't it passed down from Jesus to the apostles? The apostles were there, and then they passed it on. That's the whole basis of Catholicism, is that there's this hierarchy, heredity that's been passed on. Jesus was there, the apostles were there, and the apostles had witnessed to it, and then the 500, and then that's Christianity. And they wrote it down immediately, like they say they did. They don't have any copies of it, but they apparently wrote it down somewhere. So when they be telling them the direct story, like Peter was there, Mark was there, all 12 of them were there. So wouldn't they be like, well, we just brought the one donkey because we were there, right? They were all there. I don't know how that got messed up. I mean, things happen. Other question. I'm trying to clean up Christianity, like the Gospel of Luke. That's what the Gospel of Luke is. It's clean up Christianity. Because there's some mistakes that probably confuse people, like that. It's confusing for some people. What else? I made this one. Can you imagine calling it like Jesus' first miracle? Oh, let's not do that. Let's do this one. So, Lazarus gets raised from the dead, right? Jesus comes back to God, he raises him from the dead. Is that the first resurrection? It's not, because Jesus is the first and only resurrection, right? Not Lazarus. Right? What's Lazarus? If Jesus is the first and only resurrection. But probably, this is probably how the wording, because Lazarus isn't the first resurrection. The little girl is. Right? So since the little girl is actually the first resurrection, it doesn't make Lazarus the first resurrection, and they cancel each other out, making Jesus the first and only resurrection. Right? But that can't be true, because in the Gospel of Jude, apparently Moses got resurrected. Because Michael and Satan fight over Moses, so he gets resurrected. That's why he was able to appear at the Transfiguration with Elijah. Because Moses died in the desert. He hasn't been resurrected yet. And it says in, I don't know, Ecclesiastes or Proverbs, it says the dead have no memory. So if Moses was showing up, he'd be a demon witnessing to Jesus on whatever mountain that's Transfiguration. That would be a demon. And Elijah got taken up, so Elijah could be there. But how's Moses there? Because Moses dies in the desert. Is Moses a demon? That's the first question. Is Moses a demon? And how did Moses become a demon? Right? But then they cleared. I hadn't read the Gospel of Jude, and then they cleared it up and said, well, Michael and Satan fight over the body, but I think it says that God personally buries him. It doesn't say he resurrected. I don't know where they got that part from. So Moses is the first resurrection, right? Because he died and got resurrected. That's how he's at the transfiguration. He couldn't be there if he's dead and hasn't been resurrected. There's no way. He'd be a demon by the understanding of the Catholic Church. Just question. I'm not a master of canon law either. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But it makes sense because we have the transfiguration, right? And in the transfiguration we have Elijah and we have Moses, right? As the witnesses to Jesus there. Then we have the two criminals that are hanging next to Jesus, which are Elijah and Moses. Right? Because if the two witnesses, which are Elijah and Moses, so they're the witnesses, are hanging next to him on a cross, and Jesus gets taken down, but they get taken down, they probably laid there for 3.5 days. So then you go to Revelations, right? And you have the two witnesses. One of them's closing up the sky, sounds like Elijah. And the other one is calling down some fire or something, Moses. Right? So I guess it could be. I guess Moses did get. I don't know. These are just questions I would have about it. I didn't delve that deep into it. Like, you know. I mean, in prophecy, it's like 1 day is 1 year, right? So the two witnesses, they get killed, and for 3.5 days, their bodies lay on the ground. Well, that would be for like 3.5 years. And prophetic, like the prophetic Daniel, the whole basis of Revelations is written off Daniel. And their basis for how they come up with the numbers in Daniel is 1 day is 1 year. So 1 day, 1 year applies to Revelations because it's basically a copy of it. So 3.5 days would be 3.5 years. Satan gets chained for 1,000 days. That would be 365,000 days. He gets loose for 365,000 years. That's a long time. That math doesn't make sense. There's got to be something like I'm missing. It's probably in a secret book that the Pope has in the Vatican somewhere that we're not able to see because we wouldn't understand it. But yeah, that's a long time for Satan. 365,000 years. Doesn't make any sense. Right? I don't know. And like, okay, let's go to Revelations 11. Like 1,260 days. The woman goes out into the desert to have the child, and the dragon's trying to eat the child and whatever. I don't know the whole wording of it because I've only like read it like once. But it says for 1,260 days she goes out to the desert. Well, that would be for 1,260 years, because 1 day is 1 year, right? Or what would it be? It'd be a lot. I think it'd be more than the Satan thing. For real. That mad than that. Yeah. Now, the beginning of Revelations. Have you read the beginning of Revelation? In the beginning of Revelations, I am John I'm stuck on this island and whatever. And then he says, I don't know if he says it in the beginning. He says, does an angel, like, I'm not an expert, but either an angel or Jesus appears to him. I think Jesus appears to him first. He goes, I saw him, he was like brass, and it was Jesus. I think he says that. Or no. An angel appears. I don't know, but you just have to go read. I'd look it up, but I wouldn't know how to do that either. But like, Jesus is talking, and then all of a sudden, the angel goes like, "These are the words of Jesus Christ. I'm Jesus Christ. I'm telling you this story, right? I'm telling you. I'm the one telling you this. It's like in the first. It's in the first paragraph." Right? It's Jesus. Jesus goes, I'm Jesus, so you know that these words are true because I'm telling you the story. And then in the second paragraph it goes, and the angel of the Lord started telling me this whole story. I thought Jesus was telling you the story. Where'd the angel come from? The angel just showed up. Is Jesus an angel? And why did Jesus all of a sudden change? It's very confusing what it says, because there's like Jesus is talking, he's like, here, there's no doubt on what these words are because I'm Jesus and I'm telling them to you. And then like in the paragraph after it, it's like, and the angel started telling me about it. I thought Jesus was telling you. Probably there's a part that John didn't have enough paper or something at that point, or papyrus scrolls. And he's like, and then right after Jesus said this to me, he said, so you just wait here and an angel's going to come down. It accidentally got left out. That makes sense. See, I probably don't need an expert to get to the bottom. That's probably what happened in that part of it. Right. Here's a question I have. All right, the 7 churches. Right? I have a lot of questions. So there's 7 churches. I have a bunch of questions about the church. There's 7 churches, right? All identified, Ephesians, whatever they're, Philadelphia. I don't know, because I'm not an expert. But first off, my first question is, they all get a different gift. I thought Christianity was one thing, and all whole, right? Why are there 7 churches? 7 different churches of Jesus Christ. I thought there was only one way. The way and the truth was the one way of Jesus Christ. How did it splinter into 7 Jesus Christs? That's one question. Then, every church gets a different gift. Like, one church gets to eat from the tree of good and evil. Another church gets to, like, I don't know, play dominoes. Another church gets to do, they all get a different gift. And the important part of that question, here's the important part. This is why scholars should get to the bottom of this, is how do I know which church of Jesus Christ to join? What's the best gift? Eat from the tree of good and evil? Sounds pretty good. I think one of them is like, one of them you get a crown. Another one you get the power of God or something. Like, I want that church. You know what I'm saying? You need to make that decision when you join whichever church of Jesus Christ, because there's 7 of them, and they all get a different gift. I thought you just go in and like God takes you back in. Like, no, apparently there's 7 different gifts. And then like here, another question, I would ask God this question. I'd be like, all right, let's say I had buyer's remorse after I would ask Jesus. I'd be like, okay, I had buyer's. Is there something written in the contract where I had buyer's remorse? I'm like, yeah, this tree of good and evil thing is all good, but I'm looking over here. These people are having much more. I want to do that. Can I, like, is there a time frame where I can dabble in one of the churches and then be like, that's not for me, and go over to the Church of Philadelphia and get that gift? Because that looks like a better. They need to explain that. Because that's the important thing. The other thing is, why are they talking to the angels? Like, I thought man was Christianity and man was getting taken back into Jesus. Because it's very specific. Like, you got to be very specific when you read this stuff. I'm not very specific. It says, to the angel of the Church of Philadelphia, I am the one who is holy and true. And to the one who overcomes, he will get this. Right? Well, it doesn't say anything about a human being. It says the angel is going to get the gift. That's probably why you don't have to worry about what church you're going to join. The angel is going to get the gift. Man doesn't get a gift. It just says, he who has an ear, let him listen. It means you get to hear about it. Angels get all the gifts. So that takes that whole part out. Because very specifically, each time it goes to the angel of the church this, the angel of the church of that, and then it says, you will get this. You're going to get this. You're going to get this. Maybe because we become angels. I don't know. That's a good question, right? I think so. Somebody should ask that question. All right? And this is an important part, but he said, he who has an ear, let him listen. I think they're like tying in like Peter cutting off the guy's ear with the sword. Because Jesus healed him. He gets to hear. But that's a good question. Peter and the sword. Where did the sword come from? Where'd Peter get a sword? They've been walking around eating fish and healing people, and they got the power of God. They can heal people. They can bring people back from the dead, right? Why would you be carrying? Nobody's carrying around a sword. I've seen all the movies. Nobody has a sword. All of a sudden, Peter has a sword. Why did he get a sword? Why is he carrying a sword? Where did he get the sword from? Right? Because it's a mystery that Jesus is entering into his passion. They don't know he's going to be betrayed. He's kept it a secret. Nobody knows. So why would you? I need a sword to protect you. Why would you even need a sword? You wouldn't even think that in your mind because you don't know he's going to be crucified. It's a secret. Why does Peter have a sword? Where did he get the sword from? Is he trained in a sword? What's a Roman sword look like, or kind of sword that he had? Are you able to just slice a man's ear off with that kind of sword, just like that, as an untrained fisherman? That should be on Mythbusters or some shit like that. That's a good Peter and the sword. I haven't thought about that. Here's another one. The rooster crows 3 times. What's that mean? Why does the rooster crow 3 times? Because, I mean, you hear it, and the cock crowed 3 times. And goes, oh, yes, it did. Okay, and why is that significant? What's that have to do with anything? Why does Jesus say the cock crowed 3 times? I mean, see, there's speculation that the Eucharist is a pagan sun ritual imitating, like, the Eucharist, you're imitating an eclipse, right? And that Constantine actually worshipped the sun god, and he was making Jesus the sun god. I mean, can't be true. But if you were the sun god, what happens when the sun comes up? A rooster crows. And if you betrayed the sun god, and it crowed, I don't know, like 3 times, 3 isn't a specific number, that would make sense. A rooster, because the rooster crows when the sun comes up, right? It's just like when Jesus walks on water. And there's speculation on this too, right? Jesus is far off and on the horizon, and then they see him coming to him. And it's between the hours of 3 and 6. I don't know what the maritime word for it is. But the reason that watch is important is because when you're looking out, like on a fishing boat, at that hour is when the sun comes up on the horizon, and you see the sun coming up on the horizon. So Jesus is all of a sudden at that hour starts walking out of the horizon like the sun rising. But that would mean he was the sun god, and that's what they were trying to convey to people, and that can't be true. That can't be true at all. Yeah. But I mean, it's possible, but it's a conspiracy theory, right? But not the story about the sun rising, because there's like all kinds of it's lore, in like fishing lore, in like I don't know where they got. I don't even know. See, I don't even know words. What do they call the guys that are on boats? Boat guys. That's what I call them. All right, you guys want to? What else we got? I mean, oh, here's a question I have. All right, so Jesus comes triumphantly into Jerusalem, right? And before this, he's resurrected people, he's fed people, he's famous all over Israel. People are following him around, right? He goes to Jerusalem, and when he goes to Jerusalem, the day before the Passover on Thursday, everybody's going crazy. It's like Taylor Swift came to town or something. You know what I'm saying? Not Taylor Swift. Bigger than Taylor Swift. Like, what's bigger than Taylor Swift? Dua Lipa. Like Dua Lipa came to town, right? Everybody's going nuts. They're laying out palm branches and Jesus, and they're going to make him king and right? This is on a Thursday. Everybody's going crazy because Jesus is there, right? And everybody hates the Pharisees, apparently, right? That's why Jesus is so popular. The very next day, not even 24 hours later, the Pharisees and the Sadducees arrest Jesus, right? And everybody who was there that were going to make him king the day before decide they're going to side with the Pharisee and go, yeah, crucify him. Now they want to kill him. That's a big... What happened? What did Jesus do? I mean, can you imagine? Like, how was your mind changed that quick? You're just going to make him king, like everybody's going crazy like the day before, right? And then not even 24 hours later, you're going to kill the man? There has to be more to the story or something that I don't know how that could happen. I don't even think that's possible. Plus, I don't think everybody, it's the Passover. I don't think, but whatever. There's just probably some hidden parts that I don't understand. Like, there's some other stuff that I think, right? So, Pontius Pilate represents Caesar, right? He represents Caesar, and whoever the high priest is represents God for the people. That's why there's one high priest, and he does, whatever, kills the lamb or lets the goat out or whatever. Like, I'm not a Levitical law, but because he represents God for the people, right? Only he goes into the Holy of Holies. There's only one. Caesar is represented by Pontius Pilate. It's not really the same thing because he's a government official, right? But Pontius Pilate is the one who actually crucifies Jesus. The Jews don't crucify Jesus. The Jews have to go to the Romans, because the Romans control everything, and ask them to put Jesus on trial and crucify him. Right? So Pontius Pilate, that's what the whole thing with Barabbas is. Says, okay, I'm going to do it. So he takes control of the trial of Jesus. So he's actually the one crucifying Jesus. So does that make Pontius Pilate the high priest if he's the one who crucifies Jesus? Because he washes his hands, and I think that's what the high priest would do before he would slaughter the lamb. So Pontius Pilate is stepping into the place of the high priest, right? And the high priest would represent God, but Pontius Pilate doesn't represent God in Judaism, or in Judaism. Pontius Pilate represents Caesar. So is Pontius Pilate crucifying Jesus for Caesar? Is it a sacrifice to Caesar and not to Yahweh, making Caesar God? Oh, that's an interesting question. I had a chance to ask him. It's one of the questions I would ask. I mean, I can go on. You want to get into Anno Domino? We can do that stuff. Herod. Get into Herod. Oh, this is a good one. Talk some Herod? All right. So Jesus, before he's born, right? Gabriel, this is another Gabriel moment. Where Gabriel messes up again. Here, I fired Gabriel too for the Holy Spirit. So Gabriel goes to Mary and Joseph after Jesus is born, right? Or I don't know, sometime, and tells them that Herod's killing all the babies, and they need to go. They need to go to Egypt to be safe, which doesn't make any sense. God was probably pissed about this because he strictly forbids everybody after the Exodus that they're not supposed to go back to Egypt. He must not have told Jesus that, or Gabriel probably forgot that God strictly forbids you to go. But that's where they go. They go back to Egypt. For whatever reason, God was calling an audible. I say, well, that other stuff that I said, even though I never changed, that other stuff I said, that doesn't count. Right? So anyway, they take Jesus off to Egypt because Herod's killing all the babies. You hear it all the time. He's killing all the babies. It's called the slaughter of the innocents, right? The slaughter of the innocents. But Jesus gets away. And the things that I don't understand is, first of all, Herod knows there's this big star in the sky, right? There's a big star in the sky, right? the prophets are saying that there's the Messiah's coming. Herod's all worked up about it, right? So he knows the start, so he knows the baby's going to be born. So he's killing all the babies. First of all, after Jesus is born, he goes down to the temple. There's only one, it's in Jerusalem, to fulfill the law of Moses, which it isn't actually the law of Moses, whatever. He goes to the temple. You think that's where Herod would have been hanging out? Hey guys, you want to know what? If there's any baby born, they're going to have to go to Jerusalem to the temple to fulfill this law. So we'll just hang outside the temple and kill all the babies. Herod probably didn't think it through. I don't know why he didn't. Probably why God was replacing him with his son as king. Because Herod wasn't very smart. That's what I would do. Hey guys, just stand outside the temple and kill all the babies. They gotta come here. There's no place else that's the only place for them to go. You know? Because the temple's still there. Herod didn't think that through. Anyway, so Jesus gets away somehow and goes to Egypt. Right? And all the babies are getting slaughtered. They all get killed for like 2 years. And then Gabriel comes and tells Jesus, you can come out of Egypt now. Right? So John the Baptist is Jesus' cousin. Right? John the Baptist is born about the same time as Jesus. And the slaughter of the innocents goes on for years. They're only like 6 months apart or something. How did John the Baptist get away? He didn't go off to Egypt. So Herod killed all the babies, but he missed John the Baptist, and he missed Jesus. I mean, as God can do all kinds of crazy shit. So, I mean, he probably did have it. It's a miracle. Oh, I have it right here. John the Baptist is like, I just hop around. Now we're on John the Baptist. So John the Baptist, right? Elizabeth belly, and Mary decides she's going to go see her cousin, right? But she lives up in Zebulun, apparently. I don't know why the tribe of David would move up there, but they did for whatever reason. And they live way up here, you know. So she's got to come all the way down by herself. She goes to see her cousin, Elizabeth, John the Baptist's mother. And she comes in, right? And John the Baptist jumps in the womb. And she goes, "Hail Mary, full of grace, you know, that's my handmaid," or whatever. Like, it's a big deal. She jumps in the womb. He is the Messiah, right? They're cousins. And then Mary goes back up to Zebulun. I don't know why. Until they come down to Bethlehem after. And then they never see each other again. Jesus never meets his cousin John. You think they would, ran into each other? Like, Israel's not that big. Especially at this time, because there's only Judea. But even if it was still Israel, it's only the size of, Judea is only the size of Boston. Israel's only the size of Rhode Island. You think you were running your cousin after 30 years, you know what I'm saying? Didn't meet at Passover or something? Like, you guys they never came down to Jerusalem for any of the festivals or anything? Ever? You guys never met? It's possible. The other thing is, alright, so John jumps in the womb and there's this big, right, thing that goes down. It's one of the biggest tenets of Christianity and Catholicism. How did anybody find out about it? Because Jesus and John never meet, ever. The whole time until he's walking down the shore. There's a man I've never met, ever. I don't even know who he is. He's my cousin. I don't even know. So who told who about Hail Mary, full of grace? Because apparently Elizabeth didn't tell John about it because he didn't even know. Because you think after that story, he'd be like, you want to know what? I'm going to go find my cousin Jesus, who's the Messiah. Like, have you heard that? Like, I want to meet this. But you think you'd want to meet your cousin? Your cousin was the Messiah. He jumped in the belly. And you think that, after, John knew that he was going to be, this is my calling to be, a prophet of God. Like your mother would be like, you want to know your cousin's the Messiah? You should go talk to him. You guys probably have a lot in common to talk about this stuff, right? Then you go, hey, God came to me too, man. We should talk about this stuff. They don't. And she doesn't tell them about Hail Mary. I mean, your mother wiped your butt for the first time. Your mother saves your first shoe. Her mother saves your first shoe. You think if the Messiah came over your house and you jumped in the belly and she said, Hail Mary, full of grace, your mother would be telling you that story all the time. You're very special. You jumped in the belly. And I said, Hail Mary, but nobody told anybody. I don't know how anybody found out about it. It's a mystery. It's just one of the other questions. But they have a book at the Vatican. I'm sure that's why I'm asking these questions. If anybody knows anybody at the Vatican and you could get a hold of them, ask them if they could tell me those secrets that are in that book. It's got to be true. They didn't make up Christianity. There's no way. There's no way that happened. It's possible.